Hey everybody, it's time for another Turf Zoom from the Aquatrols company. I'm not quite sure who this guy is. He's some guy that worked for the company. He doesn't. Nobody knows who he is. He's hardly known outside of
Rookie,
Philadelphia. What's your name again? Is it Tom? What's your last name?
Valentine. Yeah.
Valentine. Welcome, Tom
Yeah.
Valentine, to the
Thanks,
Turf Zoom.
Ben. Yeah.
It's been coming a long time, and I'm delighted to have a chance to have a conversation with you.
Great.
So,
Thanks for having me. Yeah.
well, you're welcome. You're welcome. So, you obviously have been with the company for a few years now, quite a few years.
Yep.
Tell me what you do. Tell me what your role is with the
Yep.
Aquatrols company.
So I started just about 8 years ago. And for half of that time there, I was a territory manager and ran the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast territory, servicing superintendents and distributors in the channel. And then about 4 years ago, I transitioned into portfolio manager, product portfolio manager, which basically is a very big umbrella term for, I look through the line and decide what products maybe we could improve or where there's holes in the portfolio. And, we go into a test mode to try to plug those holes and just kind of get feedback from the market, most importantly, from end users and try to find out, what we want to do. Because I said this before, it's like, we're not Steve Jobs. We don't tell the end user what they need. We don't have, but we listen to that end user, we find out what their needs or issues or desires are, and try to go back and create that. So we have to stay connected that way. So that's in a sense, it's I'm still listening to the end users, but now I'm more involved in the actual products and
Right.
development of those. So,
Right. So the other people that you connect with every single day are your supply chain partners, the distributors and the DSRs and everything else. And I think it's kind of a good time to look at how all of that works now and how people make decisions about what's the right approach for my particular golf course. So just
yeah.
talk a little bit about how how can that be most successful that it can be? How can you make the most of that relationship with a DSR and your territory manager or technical manager from the different companies?
So, I mean, to me, the most important thing has been education and product education, right? So I think just as human nature is people won't talk about a product that they don't fully understand. And so as manufacturers, it's really, the onus is on us to teach those distributors, to teach our managers about these products, all the nuances involved in there. And, it's a competitive world out there. And I think the best way to be successful that way is to have that product knowledge. And then of course, maybe most importantly is to have, people trust in what you're talking about. So
Right.
that's,
So talk about that because one of the things that always struck me, and absolutely 100% true, is that in most cases, a good DSR will be willing to recognize and recommend a product they don't even necessarily sell because they value that relationship and that trust they built with customers so much. How important is that?
it's ultimately important. I mean, and you look at our team, I'm sure everyone loves their companies they work for. I can say I am really proud to work with these people. Um, our TMs, hold them up second to none. They are trust builders extraordinaire. Our sales managers, amazing. Like a guy like Wes Ham, I'd buy from Wes. I'd buy from Greg Lovell if I was running the thing. These guys really do an amazing job of building trust. But they also do it with product knowledge too. But
Yeah.
that is, it's hugely important. The trust factor is, it's been a thread all along there in our industry.
Yeah, don't lead them astray simply for a little, a bonus that you could make or something like that. And I think that order takers, there's still plenty of folks that are sort of fit that mold, but I think there's fewer and fewer of them because I think that customers increasingly rely on their DSRs and their TMs for solid information, and not just, hey, here's my program. So how do you continue to build that trust as we move forward? I mean, kind of looking back, What was it like in the past, and where do you think it's going now in terms of that relationship between the seller and the buyer?
So what we all thought was going to happen about 15 years ago when kind of e-commerce came on the scene, and then suddenly you could get a lot of information off the internet. You thought, well, maybe salespeople in general will begin to lose value because you can do that. And I've actually, if anything, I've seen that be the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, that ultimately people still buy from people in this industry. It's still a belly to belly transaction. Maybe they're healthier bellies now. I'm not saying that, but basically,
The bellies are somewhat smaller
the
than
bellies are somewhat smaller now in this generation, I think, in my opinion. But ultimately, yeah, you can build that trust through technology for sure, for certain. But I think that the ability for people to still buy from people are still alive and well. In fact, our pace of the superintendent world is so fast, they don't have time to sit in front of a computer and listen to a tutorial. They're more reliant on those technical salespeople coming in. And you said about order takers. I think order takers have largely been weeded out now because it is so competitive. If you're still out on the road selling, or if your company is still, marketing into this industry, and you survive that, you survive because you had technical skills and you had product knowledge. And the order takers kind of fallen by the wayside, in my opinion. I don't see them. If you're out there doing it, you're good, and it's more competitive. And the winner, ultimate winner, is that end user, just getting great knowledge from salespeople.
I agree. And, one of the things that I think that I've seen working with our friend Tyler Bloom and doing research about the next generation of superintendents, the current group of lead assistants, about what they're interested in and what they're focused on and what's important to them. And agronomic science in the day-to-day frac code world and being in command of every detail about your agronomic program isn't necessarily on the list anymore. It's more about leadership, management, recruiting, retention, creating a great workplace culture and things like that. And so that increasingly, I think they're going to have to even rely more on people like you and your team. Do you see that coming? Have you sensed that?
Definitely see it coming. Even in over the last decade or so, how many times we talk to a superintendent and they'll say, I haven't even seen the golf course for a week because they're getting pulled in many directions up either the clubhouse or with an ownership meeting. Like you said, all the other layers and complexities that have happened in this industry that wasn't the case a decade or two ago, they are heavily reliant on people coming in. And if you want to be a successful salesperson, looking at it from the DSR standpoint of view, you educate yourself, you go in there, you become a valuable partner to that person. You'll be able to sell for a long time. And
Yeah.
I've been on the road with DSRs and watched them interact with a superintendent in a very consultative manner. It's not, they are analyzing the problems that they have there. They aren't it's just not about a product. It's about a whole solution and programming. And yeah, I think it's really important that there's not a lot of time. You have to be a partner of knowledge to these superintendents now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's just going to get more and more important as time goes on and this sort of trend continues. So when you look back at what's changed for you and kind of your involvement in the industry, what's been the most fun? What have you really,
So
I know you work for a cool company with cool people, but you also get a chance to go out and do things in the industry. What have you really enjoyed in terms of some of the travel and some of the opportunities you've had to do stuff?
well, like I said, probably the most important is feedback from the end users. And ultimately, you don't have great products. Doesn't really matter how great your marketing is. Eventually, that's going to run out of steam.
Yeah.
So, going out with new products, improved products. Like recently, we made an improvement to Vivax, which has just been remarkably accepted.
Yep.
We made it. Cascade Tray was released a few years ago, and that has shot off like a rocket. The feedback
And
on
can
that
you
has
just
been
quickly
amazing.
talk about what those two changes mean to the customer for Vivax and Cascade?
Yeah, for buybacks, really, it gave flexibility on being able to like wait a little longer until you had to water that in,
Mhm.
which is, in this day and age, there's they're choreographing so many things on the golf course. Being able to have a little bit more flexibility on when you can water that in and not have to stop everything and do that is huge. And you
We've had
get
30% growth in rounds year over year for 5 years. There's no time.
yeah, no, there's no time to do that, and it becomes a negative, right? You maybe get on the uh, you know, get on the nerves of whether public op or private. So being able to have that flexibility is huge for buybacks and all that. And the product in general, I think it was an improvement on the performance of it, not just on the flexibility, but that was a huge thing. And that comes from listening to superintendents.
Yeah.
You can't just rest on your laurels. You got to keep improving. And with Trey, I think Trey became like even more of a uniform application. And if you look at uh, if you look at greens products available now through Aquatrols, and again, I'm getting a little salesy on here, Pat, sorry, but I have to talk back. You look at, we have 4 amazing bullets now for to help any budget to between Zipline, Revolution, Cascade, Tray, Buybacks, Oro. I mean, we've covered all the base on. There's something there for everyone with those 4. So, and again, this comes from listening to superintendents and saying, all right, I like this product, but I had a problem with this. We go back to the drawing board, we go in the lab, see what we can figure out. And we have a really, really bright young director of R&D now, Matt Fleetwood, who's
Yeah.
exceptional, and just really able to connect with our end users. So, he listens to that and he goes to the drawing board, and we're always developing. In fact, I can go off on a minute on some of our innovation just a little bit. And
Yeah.
like, we hear all these ideas. We know there's things we want to put in our innovation pipeline, but the reality is 15 things may go in that pipeline and maybe one only makes it through.
Yeah.
We say no a lot, but we look at everything on what we want to do and every improvement. And it's a process where we're trying to find the reasons maybe not to do it. And if it makes it through the other end of that pipeline, it comes out and we're ready to launch. It's like boot camp for products.
Yeah. We'll
It's
talk, we'll
gotten
talk
out of
about
it.
that.
Yeah,
The last step of that chain is the prove program, is that
prove.
field testing. I'm not sure most customers know that gets done. Talk about how important that is.
Approved program. Troy Noble is the champion of that program now. We brought Troy on. He's done an awesome job. Basically, hey, get it into the hands of the end users.
Mm-hmm.
We have our own research lab. We see it work there. We have it in university studies, but the reality is, let's see how it works on, ABC golf course. Let's see it in a reality setting. And that, I mean, to get product into someone's hands and get that type of feedback is invaluable.
Yeah.
If you don't do that in our industry, no matter what product you're working at, I don't think you're getting the full picture. So those proof trials are outstanding, and Troy is really doing a great job getting that going for us.
And talking with some of your colleagues here recently, there's a corporate sort of philosophy growing about, we're going to try to help manage the water needs of golf courses down the line, from reservoir to turf. What are some examples of that you're trying to think a little bit bigger, and trying to help solve the gigantic issue of how are we going to continue to properly hydrate golf courses in the future?
So great question. And this kind of relates to the kind of transformation that we've gone through as a company. I mean, you have the mothership Lamberti, which had purchased Precision and then purchased Aquatrols, and then combined us and said, we want you to be all things turf. And Lamberti has an agricultural division that remains as Precision, but Aquatrols now are these 2 house of brands that have come together. And old Aquatrols was very good at surfactants, but not so good at adjuvants. Mm-hmm. And Precision had been very good at surfactants, but they had really reached into that adjuvant market and made some great innovations there, along with some colorants that they got involved in. And so now we have a much more holistic view of water management. Now we can look at things like, what's going on in the spray tank. pH and bicarbonate issues, and it became more than just getting it into the soil. Now it's like from the tank, in the air, on the plant, into the soil. It's this total spray drop management program that Precision really brought that technology into Aquatrols, and
Mhm.
it had this. It's an overused word, but I have to use it. This synergistic effect now that the company is way more wide open on water issues and how that affects our end users. And now it's caused us to go into new markets. We're making a much more concerted effort into the lawn care market, the LCO market, and into the sports field market, because those issues are just as concerning for those managers as they are for the golf managers.
Yeah, we talked a little bit earlier. I think we agree that the sports field management market is going to explode. And one of the reasons is having the World Cup here next year and all of these highly visible sites that are going to be natural turf. And how do we continue to push for more of that and make sure that we're doing the right thing by kids and all the way up to professionals. So yeah,
100%.
it's a fun time to be in this industry, and it's a fun time to see you guys with all the technology that you have coming and all the technical people with Christian and Matt,
Christian
and just
Bone,
a good
spectacular.
boy and a great team
Yeah,
of people. So what are
yeah.
you most excited about? Well, because you've seen a lot of stuff, and you've worked on both sides of this as a distributor rep and now as a manufacturer portfolio manager. What are you most excited about for the future?
So I think here's what's the most exciting thing that's happened through our transition. Again, like any merger, whatever you want to call it, there's some rough road, but we've really come out the other end, hitting the ground running in a big way. I mean, Aquatrols, the old Aquatrols, was always good at finding components and blending them together and get into the market. Well, now as one whole family with Precision Aquatrols together, we have our own kitchen. We have our own component uh, abilities to pull our own components. So we have access to technology that we never had before. And now being able to reach deep back into the Lamberti technology bag and pull out
Yeah,
things to try. I mean, that's a whole different thing for us because we used to have to scour all different companies and try to find technology that, maybe hadn't been brought to market and try to commercialize it. Now we can create that. Like we have our own kitchen. We can do it. And the so that's what I'm excited about. Now there's just going to be a mammoth uh, explosion of new technology we can bring into the market. So that's probably the most exciting thing, to have all these tools now to bring to the market. Before, you might have heard problems that were beyond us to solve. Now I think there's nothing that we can't solve that's in regard to water management and turf. So
and there is no
yeah,
more important issue facing our industry. So I'm glad the best people are on the biggest issue.
yeah,
Uh, Tom Valentine, you've passed the turf zoom test. You did exactly what you're supposed to do, which is to tell a great story.
that's
One of
right.
these days, I'm going to get you on here. We're going to talk about you and your family and your history of the industry. But that's not for today.
Yeah.
So, any final thoughts you want to pass along to the folks watching this?
I would say, if you're a young person coming out of turf school or thinking what you want to do with your career, um, besides the fact that and as many people go into golf as go into the sports field market or maybe get into lawn care market, think about the commercial market too. We're looking
And
for, I mean, that's going to be a struggle for us. We know that there's going to be sort of a lull in superintendents coming in the market. We think there's going to be a lull in some commercial people too. And getting the brightest young minds coming out of school, I hope some of them consider taking the commercial path. And the commercial path could be sales, it could be as a technical advisor,
sure.
it could be a marketing person. It's a whole host of things. It doesn't mean you're just going to, be jumping in your truck visiting golf. There's a whole host of things you can do on the commercial side, and I think that's exciting for people as they consider careers in turf management. So
Very nice. Very good. Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I also think that the historic sort of shade that got thrown on salespeople is also going away. And I'm delighted to
yeah,
hear.
there's
Uh,
a mutual respect. I think that's been
yeah,
the highest between uh, the end users and the sales team now, because it's really, it's an interdependency. The commercial side, and here I'm going to pump up the commercial side for my final thought here.
Okay.
They've largely funded the industry, right?
Yeah.
And they funded innovations, and they funded the relationships, be they trade shows or other information, and that's been great. And there's been, I think there's never been a higher mutual respect between the end users and the people in commercial than there is right now. There's that's sort of an antiquated way of thinking about it, but right now it's mutual respect, and that's great to see.
I'm going to let that be the final thought. Tom, thanks so much. I really always enjoy talking to you.
Great.
And I encourage anybody who's curious about this topic to reach out to Tom and his team at the Aquatrols company, because they will not steer you wrong. Thanks, pal.
Thanks, Pat. Always great talking with you.
And we'll see all of you soon for another Turf Sim.